Welcome back to ASBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted as always to be joined by my friend, my colleague Elliot Grigg. Elliot, we've discussed a couple of fights this weekend, so go check them out in the channel, guys, if you haven't already. But this one is the European title fight. This weekend, Adam Azim in action against Franck Petitjean. A fight that, a lot of people took a lot of people by surprise. Adam Azim fighting for a European title already in just his 10th fight. As I mentioned there, he's only had 9 fights. Adam Azim, he's fighting a seasoned Frenchman, who has 24 victories, 6 defeats and 3 draws. So he's been around the block. Petitjean. My question for you is, mate, he's only 9-0 at the minute, 6 knockouts. Adam Azim, only 21 years old, but is he the future of British boxing?
What is the future of British boxing? Yes, possibly. I think in some ways he is. Yeah, I do genuinely believe that. I think it's tough for Adam Azim, because obviously we're going to get onto this at some point, I think, in this video, but it's a tough division to be in down there in those sort of lighter weights when it comes to sort of dominating and picking up sort of world titles, which I think you also have to do to kind of be the face of British boxing. You kind of need to have, I suppose, at least a world title. And then hopefully maybe multiple world titles or multiple division titles to be that kind of face. But I feel like he's definitely got the potential. When I look at people that are coming through, that sort of beyond the kind of Joshua, even kind of, I mean, Conor Benn was obviously being talked about it at one point, but obviously he's had his problems, which are well documented. So I don't think he'll become the face, at least not a credible one or a likable one of British boxing. So the Adam Azim's got the potential to pick up that mantle, frankly. Like you say, maybe not for another. I think his breakout year probably won't be this year, may not even be the next year, but I think sort of 25, 26 is when we'll start to maybe see Adam Azim assume that mantle, if he's going to assume it. What about yourself? Do you agree or do you disagree?
Yeah, mate, I think you kind of have to agree. Everything we've seen from him so far, the fact that he's only 21, he's 9-0, he was kind of blowing people away in a few rounds, which was, it was obviously is eye-catching, but it didn't really tell you a lot about him. But in more recent fights, he's gone the distance. That one against the Ukrainian fighter last time out, that was a tough fight, That was a close fight. And he kind of showed, he gritted it out there as well and did well to win in the end. But yeah, mate, I think you've got to think that he is the future. He's kind of got it all. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those where he does the flips and all. He's kind of got that razzmatazz coming into the ring. He's super fast, throws these eye-catching combinations and shots, and like just just kind of the way he looks in the ring. You've got to say that he is. He's kind of got it all. He's very marketable. And you know what, mate? If should he win this, becoming European champion in just your 10th fight at just 21 years of age, there's no going back there, in my opinion. Then European, the next step's world level. So yeah, mate, it's an interesting one. I think he probably is the future of British boxing. There's a lot of, you mentioned Conor Benn. A lot of people maybe think he could be. Dalton Smith is kind of around the similar weight here. And you've got, there's a few other names that you would think people still think Daniel Dubois. Once all the heavyweights have kind of retired, the likes of Joshua and Fury and all that, then Dubois is going to take the mantle. You got that Moses Atama now as well, trying to break Mike Tyson's record. So there are a few big names, obviously, from Great Britain who potentially be the future. But Adam Azim's right there, front and center for me. I think he's got to be one of the first names that come to your mind when you think of the future of British boxing. Mentioned the future of British boxing, mate. This fight is obviously for the European title. Petitjean is the European champion. Some good wins on there against Scarpa. Andreas Scarpa's a good victory. Samuel Molina as well. But the question I kind of want to ask you is, mate, right? Should Adam Azim win this? He is then European champion, as I've mentioned. The next natural step after European is world. There's nowhere else to go. So can Adam Azim become world champion as quickly as in 2024? Could he become world champion, within the next, 14 months then?
Well, I think just take that's a body shot that I was just I was just exhaling. But I think for me, the answer to that question is no. And for me, I wouldn't necessarily like to see him push to that level in the next sort of 14 months, frankly. I mean, if you look at the names that are still in that division, that are up at the top of that division. So, obviously you've got Lopez, Prograis, Matthias, Romero, those sort of names that are kicking around. I mean, I know that for me, does he beat any of those guys? I'm not prepared to say yes to that at the moment, frankly. I wouldn't. To be honest with you, I think it'd be terrible matchmaking to stick him in with someone like Prograis. Frankly, I think it'd be awful to see. I wouldn't want to see him obviously fight Lopez either, and I wouldn't necessarily want him. I mean, I know like he's obviously Josh Taylor's still ranked in that division as well. Wouldn't want to see him fight Josh Taylor, obviously, even though he's moving up and stuff as well. So for me, not over the next. I don't see those names also declining over the next year to the point where I'd like to see Adam Azim improving to the point where I think he could beat those guys over the next year. It's 2024. I mean, an interesting name that kind of is kicking around in that division, which is obviously from a sort of British interest point of view, is someone like Ahara Davis. Now, for me, I think like Adam Azim, almost look at those sort of names, around there. You're thinking about people he's have to sort of beat around there, which I think that'd actually be an interesting one. Put him in somewhere like there, see if he can beat. I mean, obviously the power of Davis would be challenging for Adam Azim, and he could obviously get stopped. And like Davis has got some credible wins. Seems to always have a profile where you sort of like it's almost like a figure of fun when he actually shouldn't be. He's actually like a credible, definitely credible fighter. But I think he'd have to come almost through kind of guys at that level as well before sort of maybe going up for sort of one of the world champions. Even though I know Hara Davis took fight for a world title as well. But it's just for me that's kind of where we need to see him go. We don't that the bridge between for me European to world at that division is quite substantial. And for me, it'd be like you say, he's 21 years old. It'd be almost mismanagement to stick him straight into that. I think by the end of 2024, I'd like to see him maybe have 3 fights next year against guys that are kind of let's say sort of top 10 maybe in their rankings around that division, but not not at the upper end of it, the upper echelons of it, and then maybe push for a title fight there. But he's still got a lot of development to do. Like you say, he's early in his career. I think most fighters for me, I'd like to see maybe take on a world title sort of somewhere 17 pro fights plus. So maybe have even sort of 5 or 6 more before he even goes in one of those champions. But there's a lot of development still to happen. But he's a very exciting fighter. I think for me, I keep saying the words for me because it's my answer. I think I'd like to see him maybe late 2025 earliest. But for me, I think 2026 maybe, sort of what world title around that time. I think it'd be more appropriate. I'd hate to see him go in early and just get knocked out by someone who's had like 30, 35 fights. Would be ugly to watch. So yeah, I'd like to see that maybe a couple of years down the line.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. I think I'm kind of a wee bit actually. I'm a wee bit annoyed, a wee bit raging at you there. You've stolen my thunder. I was gonna throw Hara Davis at you. So I was going to throw D at you because do you know what? I think that's a brilliant fight. That's the type of fight where a lot of people would have O'Hara Davis just on the fringe world level. Got some credible wins recently. I know he wanted to get the fight with Rolly Romero. Rolly Romero is probably the weakest champion. I think it's fair to say. So it would not surprise me one bit if Adam Azim wanted to try and go down that route just to get out because I think that's actually a winnable fight. Then if he was to win that fight, say next year, and there's no going back. Then you have to fight the big fights at world level, and I don't see him winning against those other super lightweights that you'd mentioned there, the likes of Teofimo Lopez, George Taylor if he hangs about, that Catterall, Reach Prograis, whatever. I don't think he wins those fights. So for me, I don't think he'll become world champion in 2024 either. I think he could potentially win this. We come on to predictions now, but yeah. Yeah, I think not in 2024. For me, 2025, more realistic. Just another year of progressing. 2024, establish yourself at European level before jumping up to world level. Which leads us nicely onto the predictions, mate. How do you see this one playing out against Franck Petitjean? Petitjean 24, 6-3. 6 defeats on there, but only 1 stoppage defeat. I have a feeling I know who you're going to go for here, but how do you see it playing out?
Yeah, I've obviously got Adam Azim winning this. I think this is, like we've said as well, from a sort of development perspective, this is actually a great fight for Adam Azim. You want someone durable, in there that's sort of been around the block, like you say, he's had 33 fights, lost 6 of them, but doesn't carry power either, like 6 KOs in 24, so I can't see him obviously hurting Azim, which is also what you want. I think, yeah, Adam Azim, I can actually see a stoppage here, frankly, but it won't be early. I think it'll be, I know you said like he's only obviously been stopped once, but I can actually potentially see Adam Azim getting to him somewhere sort of 9-12, frankly, if he's going to do it. So I fancy a Adam Azim stoppage, but in the late half of the fight.
Interesting, mate. I can't again disagree with anything you're saying there. I think there's not going to be a lot coming back from Petitjean in terms of power, so I don't think Azim's going to have to be on his guard in that sense. But then you look at Azim and he does have those knockouts, but last few on the distance, is he just trying to get the rounds in? Has he been trying to get the rounds in because he's known this European title shot's coming and he could see it going later? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I think this is set up perfectly for an Adam Azim win. I expect him to win the fight. and I'm actually torn, mate. I'm going to go points just because I think Petitjean can kind of tough it out and go 12. But again, equally, it wouldn't surprise me. If I was going to see a stoppage again, I completely concur with what you're saying, mate. Lay it on, rounds 8 onwards potentially. But I'm actually going to go points, but yeah, it's an interesting fight. And hopefully, we've got another European champion here in Great Britain. That's all we've got time for, unfortunately, mate. Thanks very much for joining me, as always. Guys, check out the rest of the content on the channel. And Elliot, thanks very much, mate. Speak to you again next week.
Thank you very much, guys. And as always, thank you very much for watching.